This is the Kadriorg Palace in Estonia. This palace was built for Catherine I by Peter the Great. However, after the death of Peter the Great, the palace received little attention from the Russian royal family. Throughout the years, it has been a summer and official residence for the head of state. It has also housed the civilian governor of the governorate and occupied Estonia. It has been converted to a museum. The striking feature of Kadriorg Palace for me was the colorful garden. The short height and stunning colors of the flowers and relative simplicity make it appealing as a garden which can be developed within a relatively small space, budget, and maintenance. It does not spell royalty in capital letters, but something pleasing and accessible. The collection of foreign art was modest in quantity, but not in elegance. The details that they possess make this a must-see palace for the visitors of Tallinn. Its location of just 3 kilometers from the old town makes it quite accessible by foot. It's about as big as the Rundale Palace at Latvia and can well be enjoyed with a small amount of crowd if there is one. This, however, was a summer palace of the Russian royalty, which means it could have grown into a major palace, but instead had almost fallen into obscurity. The Kadriorg Palace will be the last we'll see of the classical architecture in the 3 Baltic states of Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. All of them had been pleasing and enlightening in terms of the aspect of the culture we experienced that has evolved in these parts of the world. The interaction with locals, however, is something which would be interesting to experience, as our contact with them are always limited to the local guides. Local stores, hotels, and restaurants are typically superficial. The turbulent and interesting history of some countries we've been to can give us an insight into the psyche, soul, or essence of locals. We've had conflicting answers depending on the age, for instance, of the person as to his preference for democracy or communism. Pirita Convent was a monastery for both monks and nuns which operated between 1417 and 1575. During its heyday, Pirita Convent became the largest Catholic monastery in Livonia. Livonia is present-day Estonia and Latvia that had been conquered during the Livonian Crusade. The decline of the convent started after the adoption of the Protestant Reformation in Estonia in 1525. Pirita Convent was attacked by the Russian troops under the leadership of Ivan the Terrible. They sacked the monastery, looted its riches, and burned it down. Pirita Convent was abandoned since then, but adjacent lands were used for the cemetery by the locals. The chance to reopen the Brigittine Convent in Tallinn arrived after Estonia regained their independence from Soviet Union in late summer 1991. We're leaving the Baltic countries to head to the Russian Federation, the 7th country in our tour. We've come from Copenhagen to Berlin to Poland, then the 3 Baltic states. The first two countries bear quite a difference in the aura or vibes or demeanor of the locals in the last four countries. In the communist countries' communicative consciousness, the smile must be a genuine reflection of a good mood and a good relationship. Some were told that behind the superficial smile is an imperialist wolf revealing its ferocious teeth, which is really a trick used to entice trusting politicians to let their guard down, allowing others to deceive them both in business deals and in foreign policy. Among Russians, it is not acceptable to smile while performing one's job or any important business. Customs agents do not smile because they are occupied with serious business. This is the same for salespeople and wait staff. When the Soviet Union was dissolved in 1991, the republics which gave up communism almost 40 years ago already has a substantial percentage of the total population embracing democracy. Although remnants of those who had grown accustomed to the ways of the communists are still around, technology, as everywhere, is playing a big part in how people think. Moscow and St. Petersburg are the hub of the country. Our experience out of those two cities had been mixed. Russia is such a huge country, diversity can well be expected. Russia is the largest country in the world by area, covering more than 1/8 of the Earth's inhabited land area. Russia spans 11 time zones. In 988, it adopted Orthodox Christianity from the Byzantine Empire, beginning the synthesis of Byzantine and Slavic cultures that define Russian culture for the next millennium. Russia's 160 ethnic groups speak some 100 languages. Over a quarter of the world's scientific literature is published in Russian. 60 to 70% of all world information is published in the English and Russian languages. Following the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991, 12 independent republics emerged from the USSR. The Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania regained independence. Russia's extensive mineral and energy resources are the largest such reserves in the world, making it one of the leading producers of oil and natural gas globally. Nowadays, Russian cultural heritage is ranked 7 in the National Brands Index, based on interviews of people mainly from Western countries and the Far East. However, due to the relatively late involvement of Russia in modern globalization and international tourism, many aspects of Russian culture, like Russian jokes and Russian art, are largely unknown to foreigners. The Cyrillic script is a writing system used for various alphabets across Eurasia. It is based on the early Cyrillic alphabet developed during the 9th century. It is the basis of alphabets used in various languages, especially those of Orthodox Slavic origin and non-Slavic languages influenced by Russians. Around 250 million people use it as the official alphabet for their national languages, with Russia accounting for about half of them. The Russian ruble is the currency of the Russian Federation. The ruble was the currency of the Russian Empire and of the Soviet Union as the Soviet ruble. Today, apart from Russia, Belarus and Transnistria use currencies with the same name. The highest denomination of the ruble is 5,000. Kiosks, which change major currencies to ruble, can easily be found in big hotels. St. Petersburg was founded by Russian leader Peter the Great in 1703. It is Russia's second largest city after Moscow, with a population of 5 million. Its Baroque Winter Palace now houses the State Hermitage Museum's art collection. This is the Park Inn Hotel where we stayed the first time we were in St. Petersburg. It's in a good location, but there's no air conditioner. Victory Square is home to the monument of the heroic defenders of Leningrad, which commemorates the victims and survivors of the siege of Leningrad. The monument was erected in 1975 to coincide with the 30th anniversary of the end of the war. There's also a museum at the basement of the square. This street, Moskovsky Prospect, is the avenue to take a leisurely stroll. It's where there are a lot of stores and restaurants, as well as landmarks. The name St. Petersburg had been changed to Petrograd in 1914, then to Leningrad in 1924, then back again to St. Petersburg in 1991. Between 1713 and 1918, except for 4 years, St. Petersburg was the capital of Imperial Russia. In 1918, the central government bodies moved to Moscow. The National Library of Russia is the first national library in the country. It was established in 1795 by Catherine the Great. Nikolai Gavrilovich Chernyshevsky was a Russian revolutionary democrat, materialist philosopher, critic, and socialist. He was the leader of the revolutionary democratic movement of the 1860s and had an influence on Vladimir Lenin. Moskovsky Avenue is a 10-kilometer long prospect. It is named for and leads to Moscow. It runs from Senaya Square to the Victory Square. The avenue or prospect features an ensemble of buildings built in the distinctive Stalinist style in the 1930s to 1950s. The Moscow Triumphal Gate in St. Petersburg is in memory of the Russian victory in the Russo-Turkish War in 1828 to 1829. Our hotel is just on the other side of the Moskovsky Avenue at this part of St. Petersburg. We'll just be checking in, then we'll be exploring the area close to our hotel before having dinner at the hotel. The hotel in St. Petersburg was nice and comfortable. Sometimes a 4-star hotel is better than a 5-star hotel because small problems are easily manageable and service is not so difficult. Sometimes 3-star hotels tend to be more personal. If it's a 5-star hotel, the ones which are part of a chain are always the most reliable. The furnishings of this hotel felt like the new Russia. The metro stations of both Moscow and St. Petersburg are renowned for being attractive and elegant. Each station has a different kind of design and are worth taking a look at as many stations as you can if you have the time. The Moscow Metro is 4 times larger than the St. Petersburg Metro. The St. Petersburg Metro has 65 stations and started operation in 1955. The one in Moscow in 1935. It exhibits many typical Soviet designs and features exquisite decorations and artwork, making it one of the most attractive and elegant metros in the world. It is one of the deepest metro systems in the world. The system's deepest station is the Admiratelskaya station at 86 meters below ground. Dinner with our group at the middle of the tour is becoming more enjoyable. Everyone's becoming at ease with each other and conversations start to get deeper. The food at the hotel was quite good and not too oily. Our tour of the city was off to a rainy start. Nicholas I was the Emperor of Russia from 1825 to 1855. He was also the King of Poland and Grand Duke of Finland. Notes from historians have frequently concluded that the reign of Nicholas I was a catastrophic failure in both domestic and foreign policy. St. Isaac's Cathedral is the largest Orthodox basilica in the world. The gold in St. Isaac's is so dominant, pictures not using a camera flash is different from pictures using a flash. Back of the bus?
Hello brother, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
We were able to watch the first time we were in St. Petersburg at the Nicholas or Nikolaevsky Palace. It was typical Russian folk dances in a small palace with actors in period costumes. The uncommon thing was they were selling caviar, which was good and reasonably priced. As we've seen how attractive the Russian Orthodox churches were, most of the souvenirs we bought were the religious ones. A lot of the tourist spots in Moscow are churches, and the St. Basil's at Red Square is a testament to that. After Elizabeth was disallowed succession to the throne, she opted to become a nun. After the coup d'etat, Elizabeth decided against entering monastic life and accepted the offer of the Russian throne. Rain starts to come down. However, it's a good thing that just as in some countries, they last only several minutes. Unfortunately, in a moving city tour, every minute counts. These are some regrettable events which can happen in a vacation, no matter how long you've prepared for it. Just have an umbrella ready. This is the back part of the Hermitage seen from the River Neva. At the front of it is the Palace Square with the Alexander Column in the center. Buildings such as this is what I was impressed with about St. Petersburg. In 1812, Russians saw the Kazan Cathedral as a memorial to their victory over Napoleon. After the Russian Revolution of 1917, the authorities closed the cathedral. In 1992, the cathedral was returned to the Russian Orthodox Church. St. Catherine's Church was originally run by Franciscans in 1800 until it was turned over to the Jesuits. In 1815, the church was run by Dominicans. And finally, in 1892, the church fell under the auspices of diocesan priests. This is a fine example of the type of architecture of the city. St. Petersburg is one of the cities with a hop-on, hop-off bus. They have several options to choose from. A ticket for several days, which is usually cheaper, can also be taken again when the weather is better. This street has a long view of the Stalinist-style houses of the 1950s called Stalinka. It's all the same totalitarian neoclassical style we'll continue to see more of. From St. Petersburg, spasiba for now. Till the next DVD.